300 years ago, the system of the universe completely changed, and strange hidden worlds began to appear on planet Earth. After that, gates and dungeons spread across the world at lightning speed. Of course, as usual when something like this happens, monsters started pouring out of those gates in massive numbers, and humanity had no idea how to deal with them, because even modern weapons were useless against them. But as they say, every action has a reaction, my friend. Humans also began to gain unprecedented powers, and the profession of hunters spread and became the center of the world. After all, it was the hunters who stood against the hordes of monsters that came out of the gates and managed to save humanity, which was on the verge of total destruction. From that point on, every country began focusing on developing the strength of hunters from an early age. So every year, a ceremony called the Awakening Festival is held. In this ceremony, the abilities of everyone who has turned 18 are awakened. These abilities, my friend, are divided into three main categories: the combat class, the support class, and the normal class. Naturally, the most valued class is the combat class, while the worst is the normal class, since those who belong to it end up working in ordinary jobs like blacksmithing, cooking, and many others. And also, my friend, the abilities are ranked into 4 tiers: normal, rare, mysterious, and royal, in ascending order from lowest to highest. After that, the students start getting excited, saying that it's finally the turn of the top student, Jin. Everyone is left in shock by what happens to him, to the point that because of the overwhelming aura of his awakening, they say it must be a royal rank ability. Royal rank abilities are extremely rare. When one appears, strange phenomena occur all over the world, and everyone immediately knows that a royal level hunter has been born. Then we see our protagonist Jin calmly saying that he has already awakened his ability. At that moment, the school principal walks up to Jin and tells him that he always knew he was a genius. Then he asks him about the type of royal ability he awakened. Our protagonist responds, calling him Director Wang, and shocks him by saying that unfortunately he didn't obtain a combat ability at all. Wang is stunned and asks if he means he awakened the support type ability or something. Jin replies that he actually awakened a normal class ability, but at the royal rank. The ability is called Spirit Lord, and it helps him accelerate the growth of animals and plants. Wang gets irritated and tells him that this ability is nothing more than a talent and completely useless. However, the person standing next to Wang tries to comfort him, saying that since it is a royal rank ability, it could be very useful in the field of research. At the end of the conversation, when Wang tries to tell our protagonist that he will give him recommendations for good research academies, Jin suddenly says that he will think about it and turns to leave the awakening platform. Of course, all the students are about to die laughing after what happened in front of them. They say they thought he was an extraordinary prodigy, but it turns out he's just an idiot. They keep laughing as our protagonist walks past them, saying that even if he works his whole life, he'll still just be a farmer raising plants and animals. Despite hearing their words, our protagonist is smiling, saying that he expected this, because he knows very well that power is everything in this world. But he isn't upset because in reality, he possesses the Insect Lord system, and this class will help him increase the power of the Insect Queen. Then our protagonist starts telling us his life story again. We learn that his real name is Jiang Chen, and that he's actually from another world, but when he died, he woke up in this one. When he arrived in this world, he noticed that everything was in a state of chaos with absolutely no order at all, just like a jungle where the strong devour the weak. On top of that, he faced another difficulty. He was an orphan and people treated him terribly. So in order to change the way they looked at him, he began putting all his effort into training and studying so that he would be fully prepared when he reached the age of awakening, 18. Things remained like that until exactly 1 month before the Awakening Festival. That was when our protagonist awakened the Insect Lord system, and he couldn't believe his eyes. In fact, the creatures he could summon were not really insects, they only looked like them. This race of monsters is called the Zerg, and they had attacked humanity before during the Dark Age, causing the deaths of countless people. Even though there were more than 12 king-rank warriors in that era, humanity was forced to sacrifice 9 of them just to seal the great Zerg Insect King. So despite this insect race being one of mankind's fiercest enemies, our protagonist is ready to use anything to his advantage in order to become the strongest. The moment he activated the system, he suddenly found himself in a strange, empty place, with nothing but water beneath him. That made him say with confidence that this was his sea of spirit, which grows larger as his spiritual power increases. Within seconds, he began to notice the light of his talent tree shining more intensely. He said that this was indeed the same tree that had appeared when he first awakened his ability. Then he started to learn about the skills he possessed. The first skill was total evolution. To use it, he has to sacrifice something, and it can only be activated every 10 days. Also, each target can only be evolved once. The second skill was Fruit Evolution, which allows him to obtain special fruits the more monsters he kills. He can also accelerate the growth of those fruits or any others. As for the third skill, it was Growth Acceleration, which enables him to speed up the growth of any living being. For now, he can increase growth by 10% every 8 hours. After that, the system asks him whether he wants to summon the Insect Queen. Of course, our protagonist immediately tells it to summon her so he can test his abilities as soon as possible. From the sheer power and aura of the queen, our protagonist is frozen in place, unable to move, while the system explains that she is of the Calamity rank and that her name is the Nine Venom Queen. At that moment, our protagonist is standing there saying, "Why is she so gigantic?" Meanwhile, the queen introduces herself, her name is Shu, and tells him that she's hungry and wants to eat some monsters. After that, our protagonist used Growth Acceleration on her by 10%, and the system explained that he could evolve her for the first time using Total Evolution without any sacrifices. So our protagonist told it to hurry up and evolve her since it was basically free anyway, and to stop asking stupid questions. At that very moment, her evolution process began. Meanwhile, our protagonist was saying that it looked like he would have to feed her a lot in the future if he wanted to evolve her further. Within moments, the evolution was complete, and as usual, the queen obtained a human form, just like in any manhwa. Then, the system notification appeared, informing him that Shu had awakened several skills. The most important one was Obedience, which increases the experience points our protagonist gains from anything by 10 full times. There was also Poisonous Mist, which devours everything, and Link, which increases all of Jiang's abilities by 20%. In short, my friend, our protagonist now has a complete cheat system and has become absolutely overpowered. He knows that the more monsters he kills and lets Shu feed on them, the easier it will be for them to create an entire army of insects. Even so, he must be careful not to tell anyone about this system for now, because the Zerg insect race is considered one of humanity's greatest enemies. But since Jiang doesn't want to remain weak in people's eyes for the rest of his life, he decides to quickly increase his strength and start showing it to others openly. Because by then, no one will be able to do anything to him anyway. At that moment, his thoughts are interrupted when he notices the water beneath him rippling. Shu immediately warns him because she suddenly senses someone nearby. So he has to open his eyes quickly. His life is in danger. And indeed, he opens his eyes and finds himself standing in front of a strange person he has never seen before. The stranger starts talking to him, saying that everyone saw that a new royal rank individual had appeared, and asks if he's that person. At that moment, our protagonist stands frozen, unable to answer because he feels an overwhelming pressure, which means that this stranger is extremely powerful. The rest of the students begin to wonder about what they are seeing, thinking that this person has come to beat up Jiang. As for a protagonist, he says that this guy has been releasing that pressure on him for a while now, yet he hasn't said a single word since he arrived.
And so, the only meaning behind all of this was that the stranger was simply trying to test his strength at that moment, and unfortunately, Shu started speaking to our protagonist, telling her that she was starving and about to die from hunger. Since the person standing in front of him was threatening him with the intent to kill him, she wanted his permission to devour him immediately. Right then, the system began screaming at our protagonist, and warning alerts appeared intensely, telling him that the queen's satiety level was low and that he had to feed her quickly. Suddenly, the queen's aura started bursting out of his body in a terrifying amount. Everyone around him felt an unimaginable pressure. They were even pushed backward and almost fell to the ground because of how overwhelming it was. At that moment, our protagonist realized that he had made a mistake by not looking for food for the queen earlier. On top of that, he was certain that the person in front of him was trying to test his strength and seemed to suspect that he possessed a system different from the norm. For that reason, our protagonist decided to use his full power to seal the Insect Queen, and once he succeeded in sealing her, her aura disappeared from around his body. The stranger then spoke to him, saying that he had a bright future ahead of him because he managed to withstand his killing intent and even try to counterattack with his own aura. Our protagonist thanked him for his kind words and asked about his identity. The stranger replied that his name was Jang, and that he was a commander of the Night Guard. He explained that he wanted to recruit him into his team after seeing his strength. At that moment, our protagonist sank into his thoughts. He knew the Night Guard very well. They were always on the front lines of war. Whenever a high difficulty gate appeared, they were the first to enter and clear it of monsters. Even though the death rate among their members was extremely high, and most people avoided joining them, this opportunity would be very beneficial for Jang because he would be able to continuously feed the Insect Queen. That way, he could rapidly evolve her level, since he had already used total evolution on her once and couldn't use it again. Moreover, the more the queen eats, the more monsters she can lay as eggs, and the larger his insect army will grow. When Jang noticed his hesitation, he told him that he must have heard rumors about how dangerous it was to join the Night Guard, but that was all in the past. And while he was trying to explain that he would provide him with abundant resources, he was surprised to see him shaking his hand and telling him that there was no need to say anything more, because he had already decided to join the Night Guard.
If you've made it to the end of the video, you're officially one of the legends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, because that's the only way you'll help me continue the rest of this story. Trust me, what's coming next is on a whole different level. So subscribe, like the video, and get ready for the next part.